Sorry guys that I look really homeless right now and that I just rolled out of bed. Scott clearly looks more...
So professional.
Girl, let me give you a kiss. That is good. Mwah.
Hello everyone. Thank you for watching another Us and Our Friends video. Someone you haven't seen before. This is an old friend from high school. His name is Scott.
I'm not that old, but...
Every time I either run into him, or I talk to him, or we see each other's Twitter feeds, we're always ranting about movies, talking to each other.
Yeah.
So I just thought he was the perfect person for this one. Christopher Nolan movies. It's been hard to put this out. I've been talking to him for months because Tenet kept getting delayed and he was the one to insist on putting Tenet in here.
Yes. I didn't want to put out a list and then like when Tenet comes out, the list is already old. Like,
That's true.
It had to be included.
That is a good point. So yes, we are going to be talking about all 11. Yes, all 11 of his films, some including this one right here, his very first one. I will kind of tell him a little bit of how we'll do it. So we're going to do it like the Kanye and Star Wars video because it was also 11 for each. So the way we did those is we usually do last one, and then we'll do about 10 to 7, and then we'll do 6 to 3, and then we'll do our top 2. I don't know if you want to go first or if you want to go second, but we'll go 11, 11, and then you'll do 4, 4, 4, 4, 2, 2. So,
I want to go second. I want you to kick it off. I want to judge you on what you think his weakest movie is.
Okay, and I feel like no matter what we say, it's going to be an unpopular opinion. I feel like no matter what our 11 is, you Nolan fanboys are going to just attack us in the comments, possibly.
I mean, not just in the comments, I'm going to attack you. Like, I'm so interested to know what your least favorite is. Because I'm of the opinion Nolan hasn't made a bad movie.
I agree. I do agree with that.
Uh-oh.
I do agree with that. Everything on this list is at least solid. There's definitely some that I think are okay, and I think the rest of his movies are great or stellar. There is I think 2 or 3 movies that are definitely okay or solid.
Wow, this is
very.
great.
Let's just zoom in on this awkward thing, Kevin, of me just. He is gonna regret doing this in like 10 minutes or now, probably.
Yeah.
So now that I keep trying to avoid the question, number 11. Number 11 is The Prestige to me.
Holy crap.
Yes. Here's the thing.
Holy.
We're gonna repeat a lot of words probably. We're gonna probably repeat like obsession, because that's what Nolan likes to do. Puzzle box. There's gonna be a lot of those words. This movie is both of those to a T. It's a puzzle box film. It's about 2 dueling magicians. You are so hot right now.
I am.
Here's the thing about this movie. As a puzzle box Nolan part of the movie and the obsession part of it, I actually think it's good. I think the twists are really interesting. David Bowie's kind of like 15-minute cameo is honestly one of the best parts of the film. He's solid as Tesla in the movie for what he has. I think everyone in this movie is great. I think the actual story itself is very interesting of these 2 guys just obsessed over it. Anyways, this is a movie where the ending hits in an interesting way with Christian Bale and his brother. However, in my opinion, I have seen this movie done better in the way of by the end of the movie, I don't give a about Hugh Jackman or Christian Bale. I don't. They're just assholes through the whole movie. I feel like the moment that Christian Bale does the thing that starts the whole movie, where he does this tighter knot to Hugh Jackman's girlfriend, fiance, whatever you want to call it, it felt very passive. Christian Bale's kind of like, I'm sorry. And it kind of moves on. And then I feel like the rest of the movie is just them kind of butting heads. And by the end of it, I'm kind of like, okay, well, I don't really care. The twist is cool. I feel like they're both just kind of holes where, here's the thing. Phantom Thread is a movie about a guy obsessed with his art. He's a fucking prick, but it's intriguing, and the back and forth with him and his wife in the movie I think is actually solid, and by the end of it there is a care there. I feel like there wasn't as much care done in it, in my opinion.
Okay.
On the internet, everyone talks about Nolan writes cold characters. I disagree with that for the most part, besides this for the most part. So that's where I'm at. So that's my number 11.
Okay. So my number 11 is also on this table.
I think I know which one it is.
And we talked about this before shooting. It's not that it's a bad movie. or anything like that. But it's just very slight, very student-y, and that's Following.
Exactly. Yep.
So Following is my number 11. And it's interesting because if you were to watch Following when it came out, I think people would have been like, yeah, no, it's fine. But seeing Christopher Nolan's like career and where he ended up, and then going back to where it started, you pick up on so many little things.
Yeah,
and I think it's very impressive that he was able to do this on such a small budget.
Yeah, and he like shot the movie himself too.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot, but at the same time, it's only 60-something minutes,
and it's a very simple,
very slight.
I agree.
And so that's why I say, like, he's never made a bad movie, and I don't think Following's a bad movie. I'm not gonna bash it like you just bashed Prestige. So, like, Following is good. Watch Following. Like, if you like Christopher Nolan and you haven't seen Following, I would still recommend it.
Yeah.
I would still recommend it. So,
okay.
That's my number 11.
There's a lot of tension in this room right now. This is the most tension that's ever been doing one of these. But yes, okay, so let's continue. Number 10 is another film that I feel like there's certain emotional payoffs that are supposed to happen, but I feel like there's some glaring problems and there's a lot of plot holes to this movie. And that is his raving 2014 space movie, Interstellar.
Okay. Great
Set pieces. In my genuine opinion, this is one of Matthew McConaughey's best performances, in my honest opinion. I think he is this emotional anchor in this film that, like, genuinely, he is incredible. I think the score with Hans Zimmer's, like, crazy organs is great. The special effects are great. For a movie that's his longest, I think Nolan, for the most part, has been really good about. He is a really good pacer in his movies. I feel like there are parts that might drag, but it definitely feels like it clicks through. My main issue with the movie is there's this idea of focusing on one of his characters, Timothée Chalamet / Casey Affleck, basically gets shafted. He does not give a about his son in the movie. He's like, oh. Like, he's watching all the playbacks and he's kind of like, yeah. Jessica Chastain, he's like, oh, it's my daughter. Murph. That is an issue to me. But the main issue to connect off of that is the whole movie leads up. This whole movie is his mission for Murph. He's doing this to save her. It gets to the end of the movie. They all separate from her really awkwardly. He walks in and he's like, I love you so much, Murph. And she goes, go find your hot girlfriend, Anne Hathaway, that you knew for like so much. And he goes, okay, bye. Walks away. They all move in. And then he's like, all right. I'm like, I don't think of an ending as bad, it ruins a movie. I feel like there's certain things where there's certain movies that the ending isn't the crux of it. I think this movie, the ending doesn't ruin it, but it almost makes the emotional payoff so, like, embarrassing, because it's like, this whole movie was about her, and then the end you're just kind of like, okay, peace out, you told me to go find Anne Hathaway, and I hate my son, bye. Like, that, honestly, if that part of the movie wasn't that way, I actually would have thought this was a great movie, because I think this is one of the most emotional movies he's made for someone that writes colder characters, in a way. So, but that's my feeling on that. Number 9, I feel like I'm going to talk way too much in this. Number 9, I will now springboard off of you. Finally, this is probably finally you're saying this one. Following. Okay. I just rewatched it. I agree 1,000% with him. I think this is definitely a glorified kind of student film. However, there's a lot to it that, I'm going to be honest, I actually think he's right. If this was one of those things where, even if you probably just saw Memento and Insomnia, if you watched Following, you'd be like, this is cool. I think you see all of the little nuggets of the way the time is jumping, the obsession. In my honest opinion, it's a simple plot, but it's still, like, it's so weird to me how original an idea of like, I people watch, I follow them, and then I follow a guy who breaks into houses and I become like it's just such a weird concept to me. There's certain things that Nolan does now where you literally look at this film and you're pulling it apart and you're like, oh yeah, there's this. Like, he was already in that mode at that time. Is it bad? No. Is it amazing? No. I think it definitely is just solid, and I think, like he was saying, if you're a Nolan fan, you obviously have to watch this, and I think if you're interested in him, you should watch it. These next two were the probably hardest two I had to put in terms of where I wanted to put them. They flip-flopped every single time. They flip-flopped for many different reasons in terms of, it was the whole, well, this movie is one way and this movie isn't. However, this movie resonates one way and this movie doesn't. So at the end of the day, I just went with my gut and I went with my heart. So at number 8, I'm going with his third film, Insomnia. His only movie he didn't write. This, obviously it is an English remake of the Stellan Skarsgård Norwegian movie, which I still want to see because I hear it's really good. There's a lot to this, again, that follows Nolan sort of, I don't want to say tropes, but his style, again, in his earlier days of making those kind of R-rated, like crime thrillers like Memento, and even kind of following in a lot of ways. It's very interesting. I think this is one of Robin Williams' best performances. I think it's creepy. There's a lot of nuance to it, but again, it's kind of one of those things where you see him or Jim Carrey in like serious movies and it's still kind of they're being goofy, like kind of like a Truman Show thing where he is still kind of out there, but it's more serious, where it's like Eternal Sunshine, Jim Carrey. And I think that's the same way here. It's like you see a little of his kind of goofy charm, but it's so creepy knowing what he does in the movie. And Al Pacino plays a very, like, one of the most interesting characters of Nolan's career, where he's more like kind of like an anti-hero. And Hilary Swank is like the gung-ho, like police. I don't think it's bad. I do think it's by the books, but with sort of all the stuff with him not being able to sleep and the way that it's structured, I still feel like by the end of it, you kind of know where it's gonna go, but you're still like excited and you think it's gonna change because that's how he is. But again, it's a solid thriller. I think if you guys haven't seen it, you should. And then number 7 is a completely different film, and it is the ending to his trilogy.
This is incredible. Okay.
The Dark Knight Rises.
Okay.
Here's the thing. This movie has the same problems as Interstellar, but I don't give a in a lot of ways. There are some stupid plot holes. Like this movie's number 7 and I'm about to on it in a lot of ways. There's stupid plot holes. There's stupid plot holes all around this. However, whereas in Interstellar, there's those moments where there's that emotional resonance and you kind of are waiting for that payoff, and it kind of does, but it doesn't. The stuff with Christian Bale and Michael Caine is honestly like top tier. Honestly, some of the best that Nolan's done, like in terms of getting that tension. Like I bawled my eyes out when like Michael Caine's like, this is what I did, and Christian Bale's like, goodbye. I was like, holy shit. Like, you don't get that, but I think, it has a lot, again, stupid plot holes. Personally, I feel like the plot holes would have been solved if, I know this is kind of probably the craziest thing I'm gonna say, I think it should have been longer. Like, it feels like that 6-month gap was like 20 minutes, and you're like, okay, it's the end, which I get it. It's a movie, but there's certain things that are issues with it, but I still get a thrill out of it. Honestly, I get more annoyed over the whole Joseph Gordon-Levitt shit. Like, I looked at your face and I knew you were Batman. Like that stuff. And then like that his name's Robin. I'm like, come on, really? I wish they did something different where maybe his name was Dick Grayson, but like he went through, I don't know, witness protection, and he just became a cop. I knew the whole movie, like, is he gonna be like a Batman, like, junior?
Okay.
You're okay with that?
I agree with half of that. I agree with the first part. I like the Robin stuff.
You like that?
Yeah. I remember having a conversation with you saying you don't cast Joseph Gordon-Levitt just to play a cop.
No. The Robin stuff's not the issue. The fact that they had his name just be Robin was so, like, I feel like they could have done it better.
So that doesn't bug you. That ending doesn't bug you as much as the Interstellar ending, right?
I don't think, oh no, absolutely not. I think the ending, I do think the part where he just kind of shows up, multi-billionaire, just in nowhere, no one's like, you're Bruce Wayne. Yeah. Didn't you like die in Gotham?
No,
like, but again, like, you can nitpick it to death, but I think the emotional stuff in it is phenomenal. And again, like he was saying, like, I feel like that is a movie where I don't care, it's not perfect, but I feel like the general feeling I get at the end of it, I'm able to go, it got me, and it ended well, and it was able to fulfill my expectations. Once again, I literally just said 7 plot holes. Yeah. But anyways, I'm done shitting on it. Go on to your 10 through 7.
Okay. It's interesting. I laughed when you said Dark Knight Rises because 3 of the 4 on 10 through 7 are the same.
Oh, okay.
So there's one movie that we don't agree on. So my number 10 is also on this table. Is Insomnia. It's just like Following, where it's not a bad movie. It's just not as ambitious as his other movies. He was trying to make a studio movie to just kind of please people, and there's some interesting stuff. There's some interesting characters, like you said. I think that's the hook of Insomnia. But at the end of the day, I think I've seen Insomnia twice.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you like plot by plot or like plot point
No,
by
and
plot
I
point.
yeah.
Like it's good. It's got good performances. Robin Williams is interesting. I like your comparison of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. We have this comedic actor. The way I describe Insomnia, and I swear this is like, again, it's good. It's like you would find it on the CW at 1 p.m. on a Saturday. And like you would watch it and you're like, that was good. That was a good like cop thriller noir. And then by 6 o'clock, you're like, wait, what did I watch? Like it's good. It gets the job done. But when it comes to his other movies, it just doesn't measure up. The thing that I love about Christopher Nolan is his ambition. I just don't think the ambition for Insomnia was
I agree, and I feel like he does that with a lot of movies where he's like, I want to make the mainstream art house movie. Like I don't want to just be artsy fartsy, but I don't want to be like just super mainstream and out there. And I do agree. I think Insomnia is one of the closer representations of it's more commercial pleasing. I don't think it doesn't feel like Nolan. I do think a lot of his like ideas and what he wants is in there, but it's not as prominent as clearly his other stuff.
One of the things you said was he didn't write it. So I think that's important, is that he didn't pour into it like Inception he was doing for
very interesting. Like that's his one movie he never wrote.
Well, it's a remake too, so like
there's a lot of different pieces about it.
So that's my number 10.
Okay.
My number 9. This breaks my heart. This hurts me.
I think I know what this is then.
This hurts me so much, and it's gonna sound like I crap on it a lot. But my number 9 is Tenet.
Ooh, interesting.
Tenet was my most anticipated movie of the year. Like anytime Christopher Nolan has a movie coming out, my most anticipated of the year, no questions asked. I don't know if like the delays and
the whole COVID thing,
like the delays and the build up, it's like, okay, this movie's gonna save some. I don't think I came in with that expectation. It is so convoluted. It is so like the first half of this movie is insanely hard to understand. And like I mean that like audibly.
That has been a big
I mean that audibly, and I also mean that like the first half of this movie is set up. I was like, this could be his
worst
movie. Like I was like the alarm bells were ringing. The second half saved it and moved it up a couple of spots. But I think this is a perfect example, and I'll get to this in the next two movies I bring up too, is where his ambition
outweighs. He goes way too far.
Like his grasp is here, and his ambition is like on the other side of the room. Like he wants to do interesting things. The like time inversion stuff is awesome, and the way it's done is really, really cool.
Yeah.
But like the story, like the simple, not simple, but like what should have been simple is the spy story. He just like botches it. Like it's so complicated. It's so convoluted, and you know everyone says he's cold. This is one of the times where I agree. The characters are cold. Like the characters are cold. He even tries to do some emotional stuff that just like didn't work. Again, I like this movie. There's literally a part towards the end where I'm like, I can't believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing. Like that's so cool. There's some stuff in this movie that is awesome.
Well, yeah, like you're gonna see the part on the highway where like John David Washington's on top of a fire truck, and you're literally like, he's on top of a f***ing fire truck, and you're like, yes.
And again, that's kind of where the movie got great for me.
When the action finally started, and they're
like, okay, now we have to do this. That's when the movie got good, and that's when I felt like that's what Nolan wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's just like he didn't know how to get there.
You're gonna go into a Nolan movie like you're gonna be pissed. Either way, you're gonna be you love it, you're not gonna like it, or you're gonna be pissed off. But yeah, you're still gonna be like, but that one shot and that one action set piece, yeah.
So again, good movie. Definitely see it.
Go to the theater.
You need to pay attention. Like it's not one of those like it's not like an MCU movie where you can go in and be like, okay, like this is gonna be fun. Like that's why I think the movie's kind of been struggling, is because it's not just a hey, let's take the whole family to go see Tenet.
It definitely feels like it's a light version of Inception.
Inception is definitely the movie I go to with Tenet, and that's kind of what we thought Tenet was going to be. It's like, oh, it's his next Inception. The thing with Inception that makes it complicated is the dreams and the dream layers, that whole concept. The time inversion stuff in Tenet isn't all that complicated.
No, it's not. It's actually very simple.
It's very simple. And like Inception, the plot, like the character motivations are pretty simple. The character motivations in Tenet are so
all over the place.
All over the place.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's
Right.
my number. Yeah. So anyway, so that was the one that was different. So I guess you can, the one I said 3 out of 4 are the same.
Yes.
So my next movie, number 8, it's a movie you brought up, and it's a movie that a lot of what you said I agree with. My number 8 is Interstellar. Interstellar is a lot. It's not just something you can like throw and be like, hey, I'm gonna watch Matthew McConaughey cry about his family growing up from a very far distance. Visually, this movie's insane.
It is crazy,
the water, the wall of water, and just there's so many things that are great about it. The score, you brought up the score.
Yeah, the score is great.
It's fantastic. The performances are really good. But again, it's an example of his ambition is nowhere near his grasp. Like, he tries to do something different. He tries to bring in that emotion. And one of the things you brought up was like the very end.
Yeah.
Like the very, very end. I kind of have a problem with like the last act where it's like,
when it's I'm in the bookcase.
Yeah. And there's like things like that, and he's like trying to Morse code like crap and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, that's where it kind of lost me.
It's funny because I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think for me, when that scene happened, it was more of like, my eyes kind of like rolled, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But then I kind of like, okay, he's back. And then I think the ending, once that happened, I'm like, this man is a f***ing ghost in the bookshelf. And literally, for his daughter, then he's like, goodbye.
Yeah. And then I even have problems with like Matt Damon's character. Like, and there's things that, like,
the moment you get to that planet and the moment you see him, the first thing you think is, Matt Damon's gonna f***ing be like some bad guy.
I saw Interstellar at a screening, at a critic screening, and when Matt Damon shows up, like, and he goes over some plot stuff, I missed it because I'm like, how did I miss that Matt Damon was in this movie? Like, that's insane that he was able to be in this movie. I know there's like a corner of the internet that's like, this is Nolan's best movie. I would love those people to sit me down and like explain why, because I think it's a messy movie. It's big, it's ambitious, but just doesn't work. Speaking of big, ambitious, and doesn't all work, number 7 again is good. It's The Dark Knight Rises.
We have the same number 7. Woo!
Yeah. Again, a lot of what you said is totally true. This movie is stupid. Like, this movie is dumb with, it's just, they're just like, you know what, Gotham, we're gonna block you off. We're gonna blow up the bridges. The cops are going under there.
Oh yeah, the other plot hole. Like, when Bane takes control, where the f*** does everyone go? Like, it's empty streets.
Dumb. It's dumb, and it's weird because Dark Knight Rises comes together, and I like where it ends up. I don't really like how we got there.
That's what I was saying. Like, I think it's a mess, but it's a mess that you can at least go, but I'm okay with it.
And the fact that it's a superhero movie, like the fact that we got super interesting characters, and I feel like one of the best things about this movie is that it concludes the trilogy really well. Yeah. Like, I never want to see Christian Bale. Like, I don't want to see it like a Batverse thing where it's like Spider-Verse comes in or whatever. I'm good with these characters. I love the Robin thing. He rises and like just the symbol of that and all that. So like, I think there's really, really great stuff. The more I watch it, the more I like it. Once you accept that like it's dumb, once you accept the stupidity of it, then you can see what Nolan's going for. And this is, please don't like cut this to be a thing, but like, one of the best things about Christopher Nolan is the way he climaxes. Like, the way... Ew! What the fuck? The way he stages his climaxes are insane, and I knew you would laugh, and I don't know how...
I'm laughing because you said what you said for. If you said it, I would have just been like, okay, but you had to do the whole preamble.
Because I don't want, like, I love the way Christopher Nolan climaxes, like, to be a thing. The way, and what I mean by that is, like, the way he stages things and the way he, like, stacks things on top of each other. Like, it's insane and it's really cool. I like the Talia al Ghul stuff. I like the Bane stuff. I like the way it all comes together. I think the ending, his sense of scale is so good. Yeah. When he's able to not make stupid story decisions and do the climaxing, that's when he gets really good. So we'll move on because there's better movies to talk about.
My number 6, definitely to him, is not a better movie. I do agree with a lot of what you said about this movie, and that is his newly released Tenet at number 6. I do agree with you on a lot. I think if I were to give a review of this movie, I would say this is Christopher Nolan at his best and at his worst. In terms of what you're saying, like scale, practicality, just some of the stuff. There's so much exciting stuff in here. I'm not gonna lie, the whole scene when he drives the airplane, I'm cracking up because I'm like, he crashed an airplane into an airport hangar. I'm like, no one can he literally is like, here's $100 million. I want to crash an airplane. And Warner Brothers like, okay. like he has that stupid, like, he can just do shit like that. I think the third act of this movie is riveting. I think it is so exciting.
Yes.
I agree 1,000%. The first 30 minutes of the movie, I sat there and I'm like, I love John David Washington, but I'm like, God, he is so monotone. He's so overly serious. Like, the first 30 to 40 minutes of the movie is, okay, you know what? We're gonna go to this country. Okay, then we're in India. Why are we in India? What? However, in my honest opinion, I think, like you said, I think it does pick up. In my opinion, I think Robert Pattinson is what I wish John David was. I think he had a lot of like the fun parts. I think he had kind of the charm. Kenneth Branagh, I think, clearly was directed to just be over the top. I think he was goofy, but goofy in like a old school Bond villain. Like he was very like hammy and like over the top.
That's the thing, is this is clear, and I wasn't expecting this. Is clearly Nolan's attempt at a Bond movie,
yeah,
with his like,
twist,
with a twist in it. I'm gonna ask you because I don't know the answer to this. Do you think this movie would get better on repeat viewings? Because I don't think it would.
It's interesting because I'm the same way. I've only seen it once, and I think John David Washington, I think as a character, Nolan didn't write him to be overly like, there's no purpose to him. He just, again, he's the protagonist of the story. Which, here's the thing. I do think the stuff with Elizabeth Debicki and her family was a little better than you think. I think that really is the only emotional part of the movie where it's like the only thing you're supposed to care about. You don't really care about John David Washington. And Robert Pattinson, I think, has a lot more of the interesting, like, what's up with him, like, what's going on. I think Elizabeth Debicki's the whole, like, that back and forth with Kenneth Branagh. And yes, the character, you knew that, the guy you knew that was in it, let's just say he's very fast.
Yeah.
But he wasn't fast for too long.
Yes.
The moment he shows up, he's like, so time inversion and
yeah,
blah,
he
blah,
just
blah,
starts
blah.
vomiting information.
That is the one problem I will say I have. This movie was one of the worst examples of Nolan being like, I have an idea. I'm just gonna shove exposition into my characters. It's like, let us just kind of watch it and like see it and then get an understanding of what it is. At the end of the day, I agree. Go see it. I think it's solid for what it's trying to do. Number 5 is a movie that I think is still one of the most influential things of the 2000s, and that is The Beginning. Batman Begins. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that pun. I just had to. But here's the thing. I think there's certain things about the movie that with the following movies I appreciate and I don't. I do think there is clearly some kind of things about it where the overarching kind of comic book look compared to The Dark Knight, where it's just as dark but it has a more crime thriller dark, whereas this feels like a graphic novel. I think that kind of wears thin sometimes, but at the end of the day, this is, in my opinion, the best origin story of a comic book character. The way he does time and the way he builds Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne in this is just excellent. It was kind of the beginning of Nolan doing that like 4-act structure that like not a lot of people do. The plot twist with Ra's al Ghul, I think, is actually like pulled off in a way where it actually kind of is like, for what? Like, you're kind of like, excuse me? But it's weird because I feel like there's nothing wrong with this movie, but it's just definitely one of those ones where there is maybe little things I could nitpick here and there. But yeah, I still think it's an incredible movie. Number 4 is a movie I alluded to with Tenet, and it is another minimalist movie that Nolan has done, and that is Dunkirk. This is a movie that, I'll be honest, over time I've actually enjoyed it more, because when I first saw it, to compare it to like 1917, which tried to do the whole kind of gimmicky war thing, I think this is pulled off better.
Good.
I think it is kind of weird with the whole minimal script, and it's more about kind of the visual of the spectacle. What's weird though is there is so much shit in here that I almost bawled my eyes out. Like, there's one of the most emotional scenes he's ever done, and it's like barely dialogue, and it's the scene where they get on the boat And it's at the point where the kid, Barry from Killing of a Sacred Deer, when he gets killed accidentally by Cillian Murphy, and they all get on the boat. And he's like, dude, you have to watch it. And Harry Styles is in the movie. Harry Styles is like, well, he's dead. And he's like, well, you have to be bloody careful, whatever. And it's that, like, just they put the thing over his eyes. And literally, I almost started crying. I think Dunkirk is a movie of archetypes, and I think mainly pulls it off. The best part about this movie too is there's really no exposition or anything. It's literally, I didn't know about Dunkirk. I'm a history buff, but we don't learn about that much. And I feel like he literally just throws you in, and it's like, okay, here's an hour and 40 minutes of like a horrible war thing that's a failure. Like it was a failure in the military, and I'm like, the more I've watched it and the more I've thought about what he was trying to do, I think he pulled it off. And then my number 3, we kind of know where we're going. It's a movie we brought up. It's Inception. I think Inception is the best of Christopher Nolan. It is puzzle box. It is obsessed people. It is Leonardo trying to get home to his kids. And it works. This movie is super emotional. You're laughing and you're cheering and because like Cillian Murphy's thing with his father, I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is very interesting. Tom Hardy's there for the laughs. Like, everyone plays a part. And again, it's done better. It's not over the top explaining. There's definitely parts in it that, you know, like, it's just, this is the character, this is kind of the one line of what he is, like, oh, we have to go get this guy, and there's the actual, like, oh, I know why we're here, we're not just jumping all over the place. And in my opinion, the best action set piece that he has ever done is in this movie, where the car flips over, and that whole, I remember sitting in the theater and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's, I'm like, what the hell's going on? I think that is still the most impressive. And when you learn like how it's shot, I'm like, God, genius. Okay, but yes, Inception, I think, is Nolan being Nolan in this day and age, because like there's like the following Memento, Insomnia, Chris Nolan, and then there's the kind of big budget puzzle box guy, and I think Inception is like that crowning achievement of that. So, but yes, those are my next 4. So, Scott, where are you at?
All right. So number 6, you brought it up. You already talked about it. Number 6 is Batman Begins. This is where, so like 10 through 7 were good.
This is when it gets great.
Like, Batman Begins is great.
Yeah.
Like, Batman Begins is insanely awesome. And it's one of those movies that came out in 2005. I was in 5th grade. And I'm like, Mom, I want to see a Batman movie.
I went to go see it with my mom too.
Mom, take me to go see the Batman movie. I sat down and I'm like, okay, it's not like the 90s Batman movies. It's not like anything like that. And I liked it when I saw it, but as I've matured and my taste has, it's insane how good this movie is.
Yes.
And again, it's a lot like Following, where when I first saw it, I didn't know Christopher Nolan, I didn't know directors, I didn't know whatever. But it's cool to see, oh, he did a Christopher Nolan movie in a superhero mold.
I think this is probably his most Nolan Batman movie. Yeah. I feel like this is very Nolan in this movie.
Right. The Ra's al Ghul stuff is good. I think the Scarecrow stuff is good.
Yes.
There's some awesome visuals that like 15 years later still hold up.
Yeah.
There's some cheesy stuff with, you know, Scarecrow and some of that or whatever, and it doesn't all work, but you said it depends on what you consider an origin story, because whenever I think of the Batman origin, I think of Batman Begins. Like, when I see Ben Affleck and when I'm eventually going to see Robert Pattinson, like, I'm going to think, okay, he started from the Batman Begins. Because that's how it started, right? It was supposed to be just a prequel to the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, it was supposed to just be like, we've never seen his origins before.
So, and then that's why when you see the Joker card, it's like, oh, okay, that's where Jack Nicholson comes in. But it's a great movie. It's, number 6. 5 through 1, I would consider masterpieces. Most directors that I really like, they have maybe 2, maybe 3 great movies, in my opinion. The fact that he has 5 is insane.
That's good.
So, number 5 is a movie you just on. Number 5 is The Prestige.
That was my brother that said that.
No, I wasn't.
My twin brother.
Okay. All right. You
stupid reference.
Oh, I get it. He's in the tank. I get it. Okay, I got it. The Prestige is incredible. So you just said it didn't work for you in terms of
character.
you
I
couldn't
think
connect. And for me, it's not important that you connect to the characters every time. The story of this movie is so tight. It is so well constructed. And like there's literally a part where they're like reading a journal. It's like, I got you. And then like a couple scenes later, it's like, no, I got you. And it's so clever the way this movie is structured. I love the structure of this movie. It's Nolan playing with time.
Yes.
Playing with time, playing with like perception.
Yes.
You said obsessed characters. For me, that obsession, that's what I'm drawn to. That's the thing I latch onto is like, these people love what they do and they'll do anything.
And that I actually agree with. That is part of the movie that side of the coin that I like. I guess it was just, again, it was like Interstellar where it's that payoff of kind of like, by that point I'm kind of like, that's just where I come from.
I think this movie pays off, and like it's one of the rare. I saw it in 6th grade, like when it came out in 2006. Saw it in 6th grade. Walked out of the theater. I'm like, I want to see that movie again. I turned to my dad. I'm like, Dad, did you like it? And his face, he was like, he looked so confused. He's like, I'm gonna need a minute. And like, just like, and to me, the more you deconstruct this movie, the better it gets. It's one of the first movies where I started paying attention to directors. Like, I'm like, oh, okay. This is why this movie's like that, and you can definitely see his traits from other movies.
Yes.
It's an excellent piece of storytelling. And for me, I know you're saying like the characters and like whatever and stuff like that. For me, masterpieces don't have to do everything masterfully. If you do something
I would somewhat agree with. I do think that is a very good point. This friendship has been broken now because of that.
It's fine. You had to pick an 11. You had to pick that one. I don't know why, but okay, it's fine. All right. So number 4, I think this.
Do we agree?
This is the same number 4.
Oh, okay.
Number 4 is Dunkirk.
Okay, so that's 2 times now.
Yeah. Dunkirk's amazing.
Yes.
Dunkirk is a masterpiece of just visceral storytelling.
I agree. Yes.
It's like Mad Max Fury Road. It's like the visual grasp he like puts you in. He like grabs you and doesn't let go. You just said that first gunshot. It's literally like nerve-wracking.
That's why I was very fine with the concept. Because I didn't hate the concept when I first saw it. It was more of the expectation of it. You get an idea of like, it's a short history lesson, and then like you said, it's just, here we go.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It's different. It's not trying to be Saving a Private Ryan.
No.
It's not trying to be anything like that. He wanted to put you in this situation. There's a movie that came out, I think that year, and that was nominated for Best Picture, The Darkest Hour. If you want the backroom politics, the war room talking, and Gary Oldman in a fat suit, then like watch that movie. Dunkirk isn't trying to do all of those things, and I think it's better for it. It puts you in the position of the characters. The characters don't know everything that's going on.
No,
they're just trying to survive, and that message. And you got emotional at that point. I get emotional at the end where there's I think he's blind or whatever, and the guy is just like passing out stuff, and he's like, good job, or he's saying, good job, boys, or like whatever he's saying, and the guy's like, we didn't do anything, we just survived. He's like, that's enough.
Yeah,
that's enough.
No, I agree.
Like the tagline of the movie, survival is victory, is like awesome. Like I think that's a great message. And I think that's awesome, and it's a unique message for a war movie.
Yes.
And again, the way he climaxes many times in this movie.
That's hot.
And he crosses them because he plays with time.
Yeah.
The way he plays with time in this movie, the way it's structured, this movie's insanely edited.
Well, it deserved winning the Oscar for editing, for sure.
It definitely did.
I don't remember the last part. Okay, so last part. What do I say?
He's insane. This movie's insanely edited. And Dunkirk.
Oh, you were the one that talked.
So, okay.
Shit.
Dunkirk is an example of using a gimmick for maximum effect.
Yes.
And I think 1917, first of all, I have a problem with the title of 1917. The movie's called 1917, and I only see 2 hours of it. Like the rest of the year, I don't know what happens in 1917.
My issue with 1917 wasn't the gimmick, it was more of, that could have been from any war. I wanted to see a World War I movie. Dunkirk, the moment I went into it, I was like, that I knew what it was about, I knew when it was, and I could tell that it was from that, and it told me the story enough. So yes,
Right.
I agree.
So to kind of put a bow on Dunkirk, everyone who's like, oh, the characters are like one dimensional, or the characters are like whatever and stuff like that. To me, it doesn't bother me because it is all about the situation that these characters find themselves in, and that changes and that grows and that develops and that whatever and stuff like that. Because to me, it's about a specific time and experience and what these people went through.
Yes.
It's not Saving Private Ryan. It's not any of these grand war epics, and I love Dunkirk. I think it's fantastic. So number 3, movie we haven't.
We haven't brought up.
We haven't. I mean, like we've said it from time to time.
Is it the last one on the table?
It is the last one on
Okay.
the table. So number 3 is Memento. So the top 3 Nolan movies have been in my top 10, like just overall, like my favorite movies of all time. All 3 of these movies have at some point been in my top 10. So Memento is a masterpiece. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. It is one of the best written movies I've ever seen. I was saying Prestige is tight. Memento is even tighter. Like, it is constructed so well. It's like airtight, and Memento mentally puts you in the mindset of the character. Because everyone's like, oh, it's the movie that goes backwards. The movie actually goes backwards and forwards. And there's literally a scene where the character's like, wait, what was I doing? And because you're paying attention to the movie going backwards and forward, you're like, wait, what was he doing? And like, you feel like the character, you're trying to piece things together. And the fact that it shows you the ending, and then the ending of the movie is still like mind-blowing, it's just so impressive. And it's simultaneously, like, once you kind of know what it is, watching it again, it's so much fun. The first time is a lot. Like, the first time, you're just like, what the heck is going on?
Because I'll say this, because Nolan has a problem in some movies. You have no time to breathe. Like, literally, like, it feels like that first 30 to 40 minutes, you're kind of like, wait, what? Well, the opening scene is one thing. So, like, in that movie, it's the opera scene. It's like, okay, we're in it. But then after that, it's literally... Okay, like, this movie's the same way, but I don't think you get stressed out about it in like a bad way, and I don't think you get exhausted in a bad way. It's very much like, okay, that scene just ended. And it's funny because every time it gets to the end, you're waiting like, okay, when is it cut? And it cuts, and you're like, okay, now there's this. And it jumps away, and you're like, and you're trying to piece it together, but it's exhausting in like a good way, because I feel like you're always like...
What we were talking about with the movies that don't completely work is like the simple storytelling, things like that, for the ambition, like they don't match. They don't like meet each other.
This movie does.
For this movie, it does. Like his storytelling, the way he presents information with the ambition of it going backwards, it matches, and it's incredible. Guy Pearce is fantastic in this movie. He's like so underrated.
I have a fun fact for you. Do you know who was supposed to be the lead?
Once you say it, like
it was supposed to be Brad Pitt.
Yes.
And then it's funny because you watch it. That's the best part about Guy Pearce's performance is you watch it and you literally go, I couldn't see Brad Pitt in this role. I think Brad Pitt would have played it like just slightly more up. Like he would have been more. Yeah, he would have been more. I think he would have been more trying to be a well-rounded, like, because even in Seven, like he is still kind of that, like, that young. Whereas I feel like in this, Guy Pearce is not trying to be like this, like, handsome. He's very just in the character. Yeah.
And you believe it.
Yes.
You like
you believe the fake like mind.
Yeah. Like it's by far his best performance. Carrie Moss is really good.
Yes.
Joe.
I'm trying to think of how you say his
the third guy. He's really good.
The other guy from The Matrix that's in this movie.
Yes. They're all great, and it's just one of the best written movies. It's an example of like an auteur and his writing just like completely meshing and just creating something incredible. So that's my number 3.
So now we're in just like the holy praise territory, even though most of the movies we really like we still shit on. But see, that's what we can do because we love Christopher Nolan. My number 2 is this one's number 3, which is Memento. I agree with almost everything. So one maybe our number 1's probably the same then, I'm assuming. But so you guys know what that is. But anyways, to talk about Memento, once again, I revisited it because I will say this, all these movies on this table I wanted to revisit before we did this. Memento, I'm telling you right now, I thought I knew the movie. I watched it again. I still even had to relearn about it.
Oh, yeah.
And like he was saying, this is a movie where the way the script is, you would think the very beginning of the movie, you'd be like, you kind of, but literally you then are like, wait a minute, this is why this character was this way and this character. And I think what I love so much about this movie is there's a lot, I feel like there are certain times where he's ambiguous and there's certain times where he's clear cut, like this is the ending, whatever. Inception is ambiguous. It pays off. I think Memento's ending, really, the thing I think is so brilliant about the ending is he is basically saying, you are in, like you said, you're in the mind of this person, but you're also like a viewer. So you're kind of like, I feel like I kind of know what's going on. So you kind of have I feel like he's freaking out too much. But then you're also like, you've been with him and you're in his mind. Is he the one telling the truth? A lot of the purpose of the movie is not even like when you get to the end, if you're even supposed to believe him or not. It's that whole idea of like, what
the
like
lies you tell yourself.
the lies you tell yourself. It's this whole complication of you think about before the movie, after the movie. It's watching it again. I literally didn't think it was going to be that hard of a movie to watch. I'm like, God, this is a very hard movie to watch. But like you said, I think the script is airtight. I think the performances are airtight. I think we talk about gimmicks, and I think Nolan is definitely someone where sometimes they are gimmicky, sometimes they're not, and they fulfill the story. I think this fulfills it because I feel like the ending pays off. And then I think the gimmick is like, holy shit, like what? Like it doesn't feel like again, I'm not saying this like, obviously I love Dunkirk, you know, people are like, well, it's just a gimmick because like, you don't know the characters. Whereas in this movie, like, here's the thing, how can you argue that it's a gimmick? Like how? Because the whole ending reveals itself and you're like, it works. But so, we all know where we're at. The Dark Knight is number one. Like, come on. Like, this is my favorite movie of all time. This is, I remember.
Wait.
Yeah, like.
Wait.
Are we about to like have a bonding moment? I think we might. But here's my story. 2008, 13 years old. I remember my sister, or I was 12. My sister and all of her friends were going to see Dark Knight at midnight. And my mom was like forcing her to take me. And it was 2 days before my birthday. And like you were saying, you've had moments like where you've had that, like you're young and you're like, oh my God, like that was the first time that I remember a movie was over and I almost was like, I don't even think I had the right words to explain how flabbergasted this movie made me. This is the most amount of times I've ever seen a movie in theaters. I think I saw it 4 or 5 times, like within the span of a week or two. Like it's one of those things where you look at a Star Wars where it's been parodied over and over again. It's had all of these, like we think about it. It's a cultural icon. Like it's one of those things where you kind of think like, is the popularity over the movie? And you go back and you go, no, the movie's still solid. This is the same thing. Like we have heard a billion things about Heath Ledger's Joker. We've seen a billion parodies. We've seen billions of people, you know, talking about this movie. And I think you still can watch it and be like, there is so much working for Nolan. And I'm telling you right now, I think nothing in this movie is bad. This is flawless. This is a flawless piece of work. I feel like this is you're very, after the Prestige hate, I think I'm kind of, I'm healing the wound. But honestly, I could talk about this movie forever. I just think if you think about a movie, if you were to think of any kind of movie that you love, like I love a movie that I can quote, this movie is that. I love a movie with just like a memorable opener that you remember, it has that. Memorable performances, it has that. Memorable action scenes, it has that. Like this is the movie that made me want to do movies. This is the movie that inspired me to do stuff like this. This is the one movie where like, if you want me to talk and dissect a movie and why I think it's a masterpiece, you shouldn't tell me to talk about it because then you'll get very annoyed. But this is that movie, and that is why I think this is his greatest achievement. So,
wow,
Scott, you have 2 more movies. Again, there's 2 certain ones. I feel like our top 3s are we're clearly very similar.
Yeah, they're the 3 same movies. It's just
different.
There's spoilers. There's only one difference. So number 2 is Inception.
Hey.
So I would say his top 2 movies, which you can figure out what the other one is, but like they're both in my top 10. So Inception is a top 10 movie for me.
Yes.
So essentially, I don't know if it's perfect, but it's I don't know if there's ever been a perfect movie, but it's pretty close to being perfect. Like everything you said about Inception, I agree with. And Inception is what I wanted Tenet to be, where it's like a really cool concept means more than the story. The story of Inception is just like one like one power guy.
It's kind of like a simple heist movie.
Like,
in
it's
a
like,
way,
hey, that guy, if he becomes CEO, he's gonna like screw my company over. So we need to like, and it's gonna be bad for the world. So like, we need to plant something in his head. Like that is like the bare bones plot. And then this movie has so many layers. I saw this movie in 10th grade, and just seeing it in 10th grade, I was a lot like you, where it's like, holy crap, that hallway scene is insane. Holy crap, a city folding on top of it.
Yeah.
Holy crap, Ellen Page and Leo just like chilling at a cafe, and then like things are like
and the idea
slow-mo.
And the idea of you think that the 90% of that is like miniatures or practical again is a great thing of Nolan.
So like in 10th grade, I'm like, the action's awesome.
Yeah.
But like this movie, and I'm gonna say this a lot for my number one, this movie, the more you watch it, the more you get out of it. Like there's a whole thing, like it must have been last year or the year before, I don't know, where like somebody, I read somewhere that was like, look at this movie like it's movie making, right? Where like Leo's the director, Tom Hardy's the actor, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is like the set designer, like everyone has Ellen Page is the audience. And like I literally was floored by that, and I watched it and I'm like, this is about movie making. This is about the man, like that, and that is one way you can look at it.
I meant to say this, but in terms of Hans Zimmer, Christopher Nolan marriages, this is his most iconic work. I would say even slightly more than just the Batman theme. I think the whole like that has been parodied to death, but it's still
fantastic.
Great. Yes,
it's fantastic. Inception has like everything you just said about like memorable moments where you like, there are so many moments in this movie where you're just like hold your breath. Like even watching it now for the 100th time, like I still get like that. And it's one of the times where I saw this with my mom and like my family, and the movie, I remember, you know, the famous ending where he spins the top and the movie cuts to black, and we saw this on opening day, and it's pretty, like, I wouldn't say it was sold out, but it was pretty packed. Cuts to black,
everyone,
and my mom just yells out, "Oh no!" Like just the most awkward thing. Like the theater's quiet, and like she was just like devastated that like you're not gonna find out what the truth is. And I think that ending works just so beautifully, and it like colors other parts of the movie very well. Inception is one of the best movies of all time.
A movie that has everything Nolan is great at, but it doesn't fall into the trappings of, again, weird plot holes.
The one thing that we said about Tenet is like it vomits information. The thing with Inception, a lot of people say, is like it's just Leo explaining to Ellen Page all of the, you know, or Joseph Gordon-Levitt explaining like all the things or whatever. To me, that's the build up to the payoff, which is insane.
There's one way to do exposition, but the whole plot device is she's never done this before.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come off as, here's the whole movie, because at that point, I feel like you still are semi-confused, but you at least go, okay, so it works like this. So then when they repeat it, you're like, okay. Like, so with Tenet, you're kind of like, okay, so people go backwards and you catch it doesn't feel like the story can't live up to that device versus Inception, where it's like at a point you can kind of just forget the whole concept and just be like, it's just a great heist movie, you know?
Yeah, Inception is close. It pretty much is flawless. I love it. It's a movie that I watch all the time.
Yeah.
So, okay, I've known you for I don't know how long, for years. I didn't know this. We share
The same best.
like,
This is so.
like our favorite movie of all time
This
is
is
the
beautiful.
same.
This
I
is
didn't know
beautiful.
that, and I'm kind of sad that you didn't tell me this earlier, because we could have bonded even more. But number one is The Dark Knight. It's not only his best movie; it's my favorite movie of all time. And like I could just shut up right now and just say ditto, because like everything you said is exactly how I feel about this movie. You pick up so many things, and again, it's one of those examples of it works as a summer blockbuster, but also there's layers to it.
There's a lot of really creepy stuff that like you look at now. Like, I mean, all the, you know, like weird people on the internet are like, you know, I relate to Joker more than Batman, like with some of the dialogue. But like when you really are a smart person and say that, and you're not like saying it like that, and you're like, well, when you really think about it, everything the Joker says is creepily relevant. And then the whole stuff at the end with the cell phone thing, it's because at the time you're kind of thinking like, okay, this is kind of weird. And then you get older and then you learn about the world and you're like, this is eerily like that. Well, and like even Bane's stuff where it's like, that was the whole Occupy Wall Street stuff. And it's weird because like, Nolan always seems very like, I don't like talking about like racism or like politics or whatever. And then like you see how he weaves it in, better or worse, into his movies in a way.
Well, yeah, and the Joker, he's a terrorist.
Yes.
And he's just about chaos. Like, you know, there's multiple, stories within it where, and again, it's a lot like Memento, it's the lies you tell yourself. Like his scars, you never get a story, like the clear story of what happened with him in the scars. It's the lies he tells himself and he tells other people. It's the story that Michael Caine tells Bruce Wayne where he's like, this guy just stole
in the forest,
and some people just want to watch the world burn. Then Heath Ledger, he has a whole monologue about a dog chasing cars. He wouldn't know what to do if he caught one. Like there's so many things like that.
And it's not even over the top. It's so simple. Like the idea of putting the three words together. Why so serious? Who would have thought that would have become such a, like, again, for better or worse, a quotable for like young college boys, like, why so, like, like that sort of shit.
But like,
but it's simple.
But it's simple but effective. It really is about the movie. It's like, why so serious about? Like he burns half a giant stack of money like after the movie. So there's all that, and then also it just has my favorite performance of all time. Yeah, just Heath Ledger's performance and it's not because he died.
And it's funny because I agree with you on that too, because here's the thing, like at the time when I saw it, I never was able to see a like there will be blood or like again like Nightcrawler wasn't out. So for me to see that and for me to know he died a few months ago, and I'm just kind of like, and I heard what the whole thing was, because this was the first and probably last time people took casting so seriously. Because remember how it was the whole Heath Ledger's the Joker? And nowadays we talk about Robert Pattinson, or we talk about Anne Hathaway, or we talk about Gal Gadot. Like we talk, and then like we're like, just shut up. Just let the movie come out, then, the fact that Chris saw something in him is the most brilliant.
I think it's a great marriage. I think Heath brought something to the table.
Absolutely.
That Christopher Nolan got super excited about. Yeah, you literally stole all my thunder of everything you said about this movie, because everything you said, like I did not disagree with.
When you get to like your 30th viewing, if you are going to be on the internet too talking about this movie and saying Heath Ledger's, shut up, because literally I cannot believe, as great as he is, there's never a moment where I think he outshines anyone. Is he clearly this dominant performance? Absolutely. But there's such a brilliant way that he is a supporting character, like, and this is a random pull, like someone like a Mahershala Ali in Moonlight, where he's barely in the movie, but there's sort of a presence that you feel lingers. And that is kind of what you want. But I think to just discredit everyone else in the movie is crazy. Because it's the whole, you see all this story, but the whole time you just feel the Joker on everything. And just that air. Mm-hmm. Even at the end, when it's just toothpaste, you still feel his pull on Harvey Dent. And it's just brilliant.
Harvey Dent is a fantastic character in this movie. Aaron Eckhart, because he hasn't had that many great performances. This is his best performance. So I think Christian Bale, just his Bruce Wayne and Batman is just so good. And like I don't know if I'll ever see a movie that I love as much as The Dark Knight. Like I am like committed to The Dark Knight for probably the rest of my life. It's a very, very, very important movie to me, and I just love it dearly. And Christopher Nolan, just overall, he's just, when his ambition and his narrative and like everything comes together. There's no director that's like him.
Christopher Nolan, you're the man. We love your movies. But honestly, if you guys haven't seen any of these movies, please go watch them though, because I think, again, Christopher Nolan's one of those people where his name attached to it, you're gonna have to be interested in it and be like, well, what is it gonna be about? And honestly, like, to see what he's done, it's great, and it's great to talk about him with someone that loves him as well. It was very fun. So
his misses are still fascinating.
Nolan is really one of the few people in the mainstream where you can watch a big mainstream movie and go, it didn't hit, but there was this and there's this. So I feel like still deconstructing his movies are still fascinating, where I think, again, like you said, he's all ambition. He wants a spectacle, but he wants people to think. And I think a lot of the times it's a marriage, a lot of times it's one over the other, sometimes it doesn't work. But I still think it's fun to talk about. You have your rankings, put them in the comments below. If you want to follow him for whatever, I know he rolls his eyes when I tell him to follow him on social media, but he has a Twitter and he has an Instagram. He'll probably have other stuff that he needs to tell me about, but you should follow him because, you know, he has good movie reviews. I appreciate you for coming. This was actually a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I loved it.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I apologize for it being long, but again, you can't do this that short. Take it easy, and maybe this video will be like, I don't know. I was gonna make some like ambiguous ending.